Above reproach means not quarrelsome, peaceable. A few questions to think about right at the start. Why do some people, particularly leaders, seem to feel that they have to win every argument? Question 2. What is the difference between an argument and a quarrel? Question 3. Does an argument really have to become a quarrel? How can that be stopped? Let's learn from Jesus. Read Mark chapter 11, verses 27 to 33. First, let's ask who starts the argument and what is it about. So the Jewish leaders have chosen to argue with Jesus about authority. What can we learn from Jesus' response? For me, lesson 1 is that Jesus looks ahead to see whether this argument is going to get us anywhere. An argument can lead to the truth, but only if both sides are going to be honest. And his question tests that. But it only tests that. Notice his question is not about himself directly, it is about John. Arguments tend to become quarrels whenever it becomes personal. Now Jesus obviously could quite truthfully answer the authority question by saying, "Do you know who I am?" But what would be the point? They don't know who he is. Pause the video and discuss, how do we stop arguments becoming personal but still speak the truth in love? Now let's read on, because Jesus has a way to focus them on the truth without focusing them directly on himself. He does it by telling a parable. And the parable that he tells in Mark chapter 12, verses 1 to 12, has a great deal to say about the understanding that lay behind their original question in chapter 11, verse 28. They think they are the people in authority here, hence their challenge to Jesus. But they're not. Their authority is entirely superficial, just like the tenants in the vineyard. They seem to be the people in charge. They want to be the people in charge. And they can do all sorts of nasty things to people that threaten their authority. But that doesn't change the fact that they're messing with the real authority, and they will pay a heavy price for doing so. Now, of course, Jesus could say all of that in one sentence, and then you'd have a quarrel. Why is there no quarrel here? Because, verse 12, they cannot take issue with what he has said without publicly identifying themselves as the false authorities in the parable. Lesson number 2, how we say stuff is every bit as important as what we say. Let's read on. Mark chapter 12, verses 13 to 17. Again, let's look at who starts the argument and why. They're offering him a choice, aren't they? You can lose the argument and let us score points off you in public, or you win and we get to report you to the Romans. Which is it to be? By the way, notice in verse 14 their clever use of flattery. They know that how you say stuff is as important as what you say. Problem is, they're thinking that he's just like them. They don't realise that Jesus, being absolutely truthful, is therefore flatterproof. What can we learn from Jesus? Well, that Jesus knows people and what they are trying to do. See verse 15. And he is prepared to say what he knows. Why are you trying to trap me? Brings their hidden agenda to the front and centre of the conversation. And again, with the denarius, he shifts the focus away from the personal. And again, look how he asks them for their answer to his question. And once they've given it, he invites them to abide by it. It's a little difficult to start a quarrel with someone who's inviting you to abide by your own beliefs. We can read on. Verses 18 to 27. What's this really about? They don't really care about this fictional widow, do they? They are looking to argue that the resurrection can't happen because it would make Scripture contradict itself. Basically, they only accepted the first 5 books of our Old Testament as scriptural, the Sadducees. Well, knowing that Moses is what they believe in, Moses is who Jesus quotes. Now, what do you think of verse 24? Peaceable, you reckon? Here's another lesson. Peaceable people cannot sacrifice the truth to avoid a quarrel. How are we tempted to do this? Yeah, whatever is not the answer, nor is my truth your truth. And then we get to Mark chapter 12, verses 28 to 34, and notice something? This is not an argument, nor is it a quarrel. In fact, verses 28 and 34 give the lie to the commonly held belief that often causes would-be leaders to turn every argument into a quarrel and every quarrel into a fight to the death. Evidently, you don't have to quarrel or be walked over. Jesus is peaceable and truthful and possessed of unchallengeable authority. If you have been, thank you for joining in.